London Property, home of Super Prime, where you can find informative, educational and entertaining content covering all aspects of property.
Hello and welcome to the London Property Podcast. I'm your host Farnaz, and today we're in conversation with Deborah Jennings and Michelle Harley, who set up Abode Bespoke Home in 2019, backed by their 25 years experience in helping high net worth individuals unpack and relocate. Hello, Deborah and Michelle.
Hi. Hello there.
So tell us about how it all began with you, Deborah.
Okay, so I started out in private household many moons ago. I did 25 years, basically, working for high net worth individuals, taking care of their private lives and their private homes. Some of my clients have multiple homes internationally, so they would allow me to go out to different countries and set up their beautiful homes for them, recruit and train their private household staff. And then from that point, I carried on doing PA work for them. So it might be something like booking a private jet for a travel holiday, or researching holidays for their families, sourcing specialist pieces of artwork or specialist pieces of furniture for their properties. Having done that for a number of years, 5 years ago, I decided to go freelance. So I had a number of clients that I was using personally. One of those particular clients came on board with myself, and I met Michelle actually at one of his properties in Surrey.
Nice. So let's hear from Michelle and how you got to this point of starting the business with Deborah.
Yes, so I was a private PA also, but I was in private households for approximately 10 years, so a little bit less than Deborah. But I moved around quite a lot with my husband and his job, so I know how hard it can be when you're relocating, especially with a young family. When I met Deborah, I was working with a family in Cobham, and then we decided they moved and we decided to set the business up on the back of their relocation back to Utah, which we really enjoyed, and we've had a lot of business from it since.
So your business takes you to different places with your clients. So setting up a home for the same individual has got certain characteristics that they want to replicate in the different locations. So talk to us about some of that practicalities of unpacking, packing and relocating somebody.
Okay, so prior to a relocation, we will always go in and carry out what's called an inventory of the house. That is kind of like an Excel sheet where we take videos and photographs of every single piece of furniture, every single piece of artwork, what area of the property it's located in, measurements, height, etc. Of artwork. And then we reciprocate that in the new property. If the client is transitioning the furniture from one property to another, 9 times out of 10, what generally happens is, particularly with high net worth who have multiple homes throughout the world, they keep their home, as an example, in London, fully furnished. They buy a new property somewhere like Dubai, Hong Kong, and we completely start from scratch. So we will refurbish that property for them, purchasing of new furniture. It might be something like an extra piece of artwork that needs to go in, but we set up completely from the tiniest things. So we start with a teaspoon up to the major items of furnishings like sofas, settees, beds, linens. We will purchase on behalf of the client and fully set that house up for them.
So if they're used to finding something in particular in their bedside table, then, those are the details that they can rely on you for.
Absolutely. We reciprocate exactly the same. So as an example, if you're in London and you've got a bedside table with your books and your personal belongings in, they like that set out a set way. We will absolutely replicate that in the new house in Dubai.
And these are details that obviously, after all these years of experience, these are details that sometimes you will have to bring to the attention of the client that they might necessarily not know what to ask for.
Yeah, we always do a pre-consultancy move with the client so that we can advise them on what is necessary, particularly when it comes to things like storage. Obviously, houses have very different layouts, so we do floor plans for furnishings. We will also offer experience in terms of storage and decluttering prior to them moving, because there's no point taking rubbish with you when you go. It depends on what the clients require. It's a very bespoke service. What we tend to find with our clients, we will be initially commissioned to do a relocation or an unpacking service. And from that, we get offered other opportunities with that particular client. That could be something like recruiting and training private household staff for their household, or sourcing a luxury car, or sourcing a luxury piece of furniture for them. So it extends on a regular basis.
And making household manuals.
Absolutely. So our household manuals is based on our concierge side of the business. We will go in and set budgets for the households, set up operational manuals so that the staff are completely aware of how the household is run, which is very, very important, particularly with the ultra high net worth. Some of these houses are 20,000 square feet. They work like clockwork, and you need an array of people to manage that, be that trades, specific fields, as in plant room example. If someone's got a pool and a gymnasium area in a house, there are very specific needs of that plant room to be maintained on a daily basis. So those staff need to know how to run and manage that.
And on the financial side of things, setting up the budgets, is that something that a client has asked you, or do you provide a service where you might actually address some of those expenses on an annual basis of how they could make them more efficient?
Yeah, basically. So we do both. If it's a new build, they tend to ask us to start from scratch. So we would then set the budgets for them. Sometimes a client will already have a household that's been up and running for 5-10 years, and they might think that, we're overspending here or things are not running as they wish it to. So they will commission me to go in, carry out reports. So I will go into a property for a number of days over a period of time and observe how the staff work, how the operational side of it is working, certainly how the financials are run, report back to them on my findings. Whether the client then acts on those findings is purely down to the client. But yeah, that is a service that we offer. Or we will literally just say, okay, a household of this size is going to cost you this amount each month. This is your budget. And we will itemize everything in that monthly budget.
And you speak with a lot of passion with us about this subject. So it's something that you've actually yourself have had experience at all sorts of levels within private households. So you know how the butler should run, you know how the nanny should look after the children. So tell us a bit more about the nuances there.
So I started out myself. My very first job was working for an Italian fashion designer in Bologna, and I lived in with that family for 3 years. I was only 19 at the time, and it gave me a real insight into the world of high net worth because I had the opportunity of traveling all over, not only Italy, but abroad with the family because he was very high profile. So I went to catwalk shows. It was a very different lifestyle. I got to travel with their luxury holidays and their holiday homes. And I noticed that those kind of families don't have time to take care of certain things. And that's where private PA kind of comes into its own, really. You are managing their lives, really. So I started out a private PA. I worked my way up. I've done butlering courses for formal service. I've worked in informal and semi-formal and formal households. And there is a very, very different expectation between the three of them. And I finished at chief of staff level after 28 years.
Yes, and you have been known to set up palaces with...
Yes.
Lots of people in them. And
taking staff out from the UK, particularly in the Middle East. It's very well known that with very high net worth people out in the Middle East, they like to recruit staff on annual basis. So they will take teams of staff from the UK, source of staffing here, to set up new palaces out there. And then the teams stay out there on an annual basis, an annual contract.
So let's start with, you've been recommended to somebody for the unpacking for the relocation service.
Sure.
And then obviously relocation leads to unpacking.
Yeah.
Packing and unpacking. So take us through that process.
So basically what will happen is everything that we do is word of mouth. We are highly discreet and we're very private in terms of our clients and who they are. So we're always recommended by word of mouth, basically. When an inquiry comes in, Michelle and I will always go out to meet the client. Sometimes we meet their PAs or their EAs because they're not present. And we will go around the house, find out how they live in their current home, what their expectations is for the relocation in their new property. We will put together a plan and a time scale of how long it's going to take, the amount of ladies and teams that we will be needing at the other end to do the unpacking and setting up of the luxury home. It's a process. On average, it can take anything between 4 weeks and 2 months on an average relocation. Some of our clients, if it's more detailed and more complex, they can take anything up to 6 months. So we tend to come on board right at the start. Usually it happens that, yes, we'll manage a relocation and our teams will then set the house up from then on, afterwards, anything that comes after that is based on our concierge team. So it could be things like helping with utilities, sourcing private schools, sourcing a luxury car, helping with visa applications. That's something that comes after a relocation.
Right. And then obviously you then team up with the specialists in those fields you've built up relationships with.
Yeah. So we partner with a number of specialist companies, both in removals, both in private independent education, luxury car companies, as an example, luxury storage for clothing and furniture facilities. We have partners that we work with that if their services are needed, we will introduce them to the client at that point.
And obviously, because these are kind of mini projects, then you've got the capacity of taking on a number of clients at the same time. And talk us through the team that backs you up in-house, as it were, the ones that are working.
So we have a concierge team of PAs. All have worked within either the EA corporate side of the business or private households. And we have a number of consultants who kind of have done estate management for us. So if myself or Michelle are not available for one another job, or a specific client wants somebody to go out and have an issue with an estate, we will call upon those consultants to work on our behalf. They know exactly that there's only probably 5 people in the UK who's been in the industry for over 20, 30 years at the level that I kind of finished at. I know that I can trust them to do a job on our behalf because they're very qualified. I've worked with them for many years and I trust them implicitly. So if need be, I will call upon those. But our PAs are in-house. They have account managers that will deal with specific clients. So they get to know that client very, very well. They know their likes and their dislikes. As an example, where they like to travel for holiday, who they want to travel with, is it commercial or private jet? So you build up over a number of years a real rapport with the client. You instinctively know their likes and their dislikes. And that's extremely important because time is of the essence when you're dealing with high net worth people.
And then you've got teams of unpackers that you can deploy. So if somebody needs to move out of a 20,000 square foot house in
Absolutely.
3 days,
yes, we have
you can pull it off.
Sure. So we have a national team in the UK specifically. Currently, we're around about 75 ladies that work on our behalf. They're all fully trained by ourselves in our in-house procedures. They sign non-disclosures because we work with people in the media, people who don't want their private business known to the public. Quite often we'll have a client who's relocating and we will have to wrap the vans because the media are present, take photographs, etc., and they don't want the media knowing they're moving home. So we will wrap out the removal company vans, which is quite often asked for.
Yeah. That's interesting. And I guess what we're talking about is a sort of 5-star private house service, isn't it?
It is. Exactly how I used to work in private houses is what we expect our girls to give our clients when setting up luxury homes. So we will do things like steam the bedding before we lay the bed up. We will use storage facilities, glass jars to replace spices in rather than leaving them there, the canisters that you buy from a normal shop. General things that you would, just the little details that don't necessarily get done when moving home. You can walk into your house and know that the house is absolutely 5-star perfect to be lived in from day one.
And how many of your clients want this service across homes, jets and boats?
90% of our clients have super yachts. The service is slightly different on super yachts because obviously they've been kitted out a specific way. We tend to go in with super yachts and manage their expectations over a period of time. So usually if their crew are on board initially, if it's the first run out and that boat has been specifically set up by a company, if there's issues then with service or training that needs to be done, we will then go in months later, a year later, just to make things better and, keep the staff on their toes, keep the level of expectation to the level that the client is requiring.
And there's some unusual services that you've come across. There's one in particular we discussed about the storage of clothes in different locations so that if somebody doesn't want to pack suitcases,
sure,
they can call upon their clothes to be delivered to them. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so a lot of high net worth clients, they travel private jet and they don't want to be lugging around suitcases, even though they might have the staff to take care of that for them. So what you'll find with a lot of the clients that we deal with, they have multiple homes throughout the world. Rather than having to buy new clothing on arrival or bringing clothing with them, they will purchase a number of clothing items, but in multiple numbers. As an example, they might have a very specific evening dress that the lady likes to wear. Not only does she buy it for New York, but then she'll have exactly the same dress in London and in Hong Kong and in LA. And it's put into storage, temperature-controlled storage units. So when they travel from, say, Hong Kong to London and they've got a special event, the client will literally go onto her phone or iPad, go into her personal inventory, itemize what she's requiring beforehand. Sometimes it's done before they arrive, sometimes when they get here. The clothing is brought out of storage, delivered to their hotel or their property. It's used when they're here. As soon as they leave, it goes back to storage and it remains there. Is there some other services that are really only an ultra-high net worth? I mean, example, jewelry, loaning of jewelry is very popular within the high net worth field. So you may think that, you've got an ultra-high net worth client and they have their own expensive jewelry, but generally what happens is a lot of their jewelry is that they appear in public with is fake. It's not real jewelry because their own jewels tend to be in safes or banks. But what they may do, they may have a special event. As an example, the Met Gala, where they're going to an event and they want something special. So we will reach out to the jewellery companies, i.e. boodles, who loan them jewellery for the evening. So it's presented to them at their location, a hotel. They wear it on the evening and then it goes back into the jewellers the following day. Great PR. Okay. Is there anything else that we haven't discussed that you think would be interesting to our listeners that we should touch on? It's a very different world when you come into it, particularly as an employee. It is a lifestyle. It's not a job. It's not a 9-to-5 job. Many of my clients are expecting me to be on call 24/7. I can quite easily be called at 2:00 in the morning because my client is in India and he needs a particular email or a fax being sent. It is a lifestyle. It has it. You see amazing places. You do get to live a luxury lifestyle to a degree, but at the end of the day, you are there to provide a service, and it's very important to remember that. And if you were to say the sort of three main characteristics that seem to be common amongst your clientele, we discussed one is never say no. Never say no to a client. Discretion is number one, first and foremost. You really do have to be highly discreet if you're going to make any kind of career out of this. Having a plan B and C is absolutely paramount because those types of clients you don't say no to. So if something goes wrong, then they want a solution to that. So it's always great to have a plan B and C. And finally, be confident in your abilities. Act professionally at all times because, you are surrounded by people who tend to be extremely intelligent. They're high net worth for a reason. Time is of the essence to these people. The one thing they lack, they can have anything in the world, but they don't have enough time. And we are changing that for them. Excellent. And you have a very fair charging system, which will let our listeners contact you directly about, but it's very transparent and very fair. Absolutely. We like to be transparent. When you're dealing with high net worth people, again, sometimes they can get the wrong end of the ladder. People try it on with them in terms of, they think, these are rich people. I'm going to bump my prices at 50%. We've not gone down that route. We want to be very transparent. So our prices are on our websites. And whether you're a single mother in a 1-bedroom flat who needs unpacking or you're a billionaire, the charge is exactly the same. Fantastic. And the decluttering service is probably the one I'm going to pull on soon. Some good feng shui to clear the mind. Lovely. Thank you very much. That was really, really interesting conversation.
Thanks for listening to the London Property Podcast. Head over to londonproperty.co.uk and subscribe to our newsletter to receive latest updates.